Seeking to find those shortcuts and stay away from a traffic disaster, plenty of America is getting hooked on cell phone apps that pinpoint exactly where the speed traps are, and this, where the men and women in uniform are. Sounds like another cat and mouse episode, but cops are concerned they could be trapped like rats if used in the wrong hands. Let's welcome to MidPoint former NYPD officer and founder, CEO of PsyID, providing actionable social media intelligence. John Cardillo joins us today. John, good to see you again.
Oh, great to be back. Thanks for the invite.
John, here we go. The police chief in Los Angeles, Charlie Beck, is after Google right now, who owns the app Waze, W-A-Z-E. He wants him to disable the feature that warns drivers when police are close by. Hey, wait a minute. This sounds like a pretty logical question, if you will, because you don't want to know where the cops always are. So is anything really wrong with this request?
I actually think there is. I think Chief Beck is infringing on the First Amendment because this app, I use it. And if you're familiar with the app, it isn't outing undercover officers. It's simply a motorist like me putting on the app, hey, I see a marked patrol car in front of 123 Main Street. And you as another user can see that, and you might slow down when driving through that area. So this isn't really disclosing anything that's sensitive information. It's simply just letting people know what hundreds of others driving by are seeing at the same moment.
But isn't it easy information to see? And because you're right, if you're driving by and if it's a marked vehicle, sometimes even if it's unmarked, you can figure out what it is. But if you've got people, and let's be very frank here, John, we've got some whack jobs running out here right now who are looking to kill cops and create as much damage and havoc as possible. Doesn't this give them a pinpoint and say, hey, by the way, I'm out looking, there's one that's 2 blocks away? That could be dangerous.
You know, I don't think it is. And I'll be flamed because, I mean, we've spoken. I'm usually the pro-cop guy here, and I always am pro-police. But I really don't. I'm concerned whenever law enforcement wants to restrict the public's ability to communicate. And, of course, if we were talking about the outing of undercover officers, federal surveillance vans looking at very dangerous organized crime figures, I would have a completely different opinion on this. But this is a marked patrol car, and I don't think this is going to cause a bad guy to do any more damage than they otherwise would have. I think it's very dangerous to set public policy on what someone might do, because then we get into supporting the arguments of the gun grabbers and things of that nature.
But John, isn't it fair to say that a lot of the clandestine nature of police work is a very important part of police work here? You still have to be able to operate so that you are not basically out there with a sign on your head. And again, I'm going to play the pro-cop side on this as well, because I can see why officers would be concerned, especially what happened to the 2 officers in New York in a marked vehicle and someone walking up on them and blowing their heads off. I mean, that, I think, leads them to believe that this could be the next step.
Well, I understand Chief Beck's concern, right? His first mission is to safeguard his officers. But I think in this particular case, it's a bit reactionary and unnecessarily so. Look, take a department like LAPD, like NYPD. If you're a bad actor and you're bent on injuring or murdering a police officer, they're pretty easy to find in a city like that. I mean, 30,000 officers in one. I think LA is between 10 and 15,000. So they're easy to find. Again, I just don't like government stepping in and censoring things that enable American citizens to freely communicate. The Supreme Court has already upheld that we can video officers in public. So if I can video an officer in uniform and put it on YouTube and say, I videoed this officer on 42nd Street and 7th Avenue in Manhattan, why can't I do the same thing on an app?
Aren't you basically then asking somebody to break the law, knowing where the cops are, so that they don't commit crimes in that area?
I think the counter to that would be the police themselves put up signs, this area patrolled by radar. This area patrolled by aircraft and patrol cars with radar. And so the police have set a precedent of letting the public know they're going to be there.
All right. John, by the way, would you be scared if you were a cop knowing that somebody knew where you were 24/7?
You know, they did. And I think we have to draw a very important distinction here with marked patrol cars and undercovers. Again, marked patrol cars, the nature of marked patrol is high visibility. It's not to be clandestine. NYPD does what's called directed patrol. In fact, POs Lou and Ramos were murdered because they were doing a detail. They were on a detail that was supposed to be high visibility police officers in uniforms and patrol cars. And so I think that we again, I love to be on the pro police side of this, and I always am, but I'm also